Hey, another video. I'm gonna go a little bit further on what we were talking about the other videos. Let's take a step backwards and talk about how we get the chords within a key. We were discussing or working with the key of C, and we had two scales we were working with: C major. Went over the fingerings in the other video. I won't do it here. And then an A natural minor. So we have two chords, and we're calling them a relative major and minor. Let's talk about the diatonic chords in the key of C. Now, what do we mean by diatonic? That just means the chords that are built upon the major scale. In our Western harmony, what we mostly use is these triads are most basic, arpeggiated. I'm going to arpeggiate them. It means just playing one note instead of the whole chord, just to give us an idea of what's going on. Now, if we number these notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, with numbers, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now that's kind of important to understand the relationships within the notes. Our basic chord, most basic chord, is root 1, our root, which is 1, our 3, and our 5. Now why every other note? I don't know. I have a cute little story about coconuts and monks, but if we harmonize those three notes, those every other one, for our most basic chord, we end up with kind of what we're used to hearing. Here's our major, our A major, our C major chord. Now we're playing 6 notes on here on the guitar, but really it's 3 notes. It's our root, there's our 5th, there's our root again. We have another root down here, our major 3rd, and our 5th again. It's 2 5ths, 2 number 5 notes, a 3rd here, and then 3 root notes. If we were to play triads over all of these tones of the major scale, we're going to end up with 7 different chords. Our next one, going every other note of the major scale, yields a D minor. Our next one is another minor chord. Our 3 minor. A lot of times you'll hear musicians talking, oh yeah, go to the 2 minor or a 2-5-1 change. That would mean, in this case, our D minor to our 5 to our 1. We'll keep going. There's our 3 chord, which is going to be minor. Our 4 chord is major. 5 chord is major. 6 chord is minor. Our 7 chord is a diminished chord, which means it's got minor thirds. There's a minor third interval. And here to here is a minor third interval. Back to home base, our A. Now, why is all this important, and why does it matter? Well, in my opinion, you could take this as a student as far as you want, music theory, but this is the basic stuff. This is really what you need to know to navigate music. Like I said, you could take it all the way to Neapolitan 6th or whatever, but this is the basic. In other words, why is it? Here's another reason why it's important. These are the basic choices for people playing songs. You've heard about 3 chords on the truth. Well, this is where you get 3 chords on the truth. Your 3 basic major chords in that key are C, F, G. That's all kinds of songs are just 3 chords. Those basic 3 chords are 1 chord, our 4 chord, and our 5 chord. La 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 la, bam bam. It's all right there. For a little flavor, throw in the minor 3 for your bridge. Not to say that every song uses just those chords. There's other techniques to involve other chords, but this is basic music theory. Why else does that matter? Going back to our other lesson, we were soloing over C changes, and there was stuff like D minor. If you understand where your triads are and how to play them, every time you hear that D minor, every time that pops up, you can at least understand where they're located within the framework of the scale that we use. Now that doesn't mean you can use any scale pattern for that, because I gave you one pattern. I've seen a lot of different ones, and each one has their pluses and minuses, but I just tend to use that one. That's what I was brought up on. There's other ways to play these scales. Don't be afraid to use them. Find what works for you. What I'm telling you is not the be all and end all. Oh, you have to just use this pattern. No, there's other really cool ones that have a lot of benefits to them. But anyways, here's our G. And a good exercise is when that jam track that we're using is try and go over your arpeggios as they come up. For right now, you don't have to get too complicated with D, G, C, A, D minor again, G, C, G minor, that's a little bit outside our scale. C7. Now, when you start seeing the last numbers on there, you're asking yourself, what's a G7, a C major 7, and then the A7. So the 7s usually indicate a dominant chord, which is the 5 chord, but in this case, your G7 is going to be dominant, which means that you have a dominant 7th. This is important to understand. And I'll say it here in the video. Here's my theory on it. Dominant 7th is kind of, you get this harsh interval. Tritone. The sound of rock and roll, jazz, blues. And then the major 7th is very pleasing to a certain extent. Here's a F major 7, very pretty chord. If you use thinking of a song as, think of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. There's a major 7th. Somewhere over. I'll play it as a dominant 7. What if they had chose that in the song? No, it just wouldn't sound good. So the major 7th's the pretty one, or you could think of the first chords of Something by the Beatles. Then a major 7, then a dominant 7. Or Rain Song by Zeppelin. Same progression. Major chord, major 7th, lower that a half step, and there's our dominant 7th. So the major 7th is of the scale, the 7th tone of the scale. 7, 8, and the dominant 7th takes that and flats it. So if we add another note behind the 5th note, instead of playing the 6th, we're going to play the 7th. So 1, skip the 2, 3, skip the 4, 5, skip the 6, and the 7th. That's our 4th tone of that scale. We're going to have the numbered notes. And it goes on and on. If you go up another octave, you can have 13s, 11s, so on and so forth. So hopefully that clears up some of that stuff. Now, let's go back to a relative major minor and some usable tricks for this. understanding this. One of the music theories I think you should have a basic trick or understanding under your belt is using your relative major and relative minor in any key. And I'll go over, maybe I went over this in another video, it's worth repeating. Say if we're in C, first finger, replace that with your pinky, and then you'll find your relative minor. Your first finger is going to be on your minor, putting each finger on a note. It's a real good one if you're in a pinch and you want to, like, oh, do I have to count up 6 notes, down 7 notes? Oh my gosh, I'm on a bandstand and I have to play some licks. Well, what do I do? And here's a really good basic understanding. If somebody calls out the key of A, oh, I don't know, where's the 7th note? And oh, the song's over, I missed it. You're in A, just put your pinky there and play a pentatonic. It will be all the notes, it's your relative minor. It will sound major because it's got all the notes of the major scale. Same thing inversely. Say you're playing a minor key, D minor. What's the major, the relative major? I don't know. I gotta think. Oh my gosh. No, don't even think. We have a guitar in our hand. First finger on the 5th, pinky's gonna be on it, and it's F major. Key of F major, up F up here. Relative minor's D minor. I think that's about it. Oh, I want to mention, here's another thing, because we had this was, we mapped it out, and for that jam track in C that we talked about in the other videos, what I'd like to say about that is, after, hopefully you've done this past week, you've looked at all those circled notes, now start to mix them up. And I want you to play with, let it sink into your ears. What does, if when that G7 chord comes up, what does the B sound like? Or think of the, now you could start thinking of the 4th note in there, which is, there's our 7th note. When it says, oh, let me go over this. When it says 7, it's a dominant 7th. When the major 7th tone that you're hearing will say major 7th, and they're talking about, I'll go over that in the next chord. Anyway, so in this case, it's an F. That's your 7th. Try and hear that within the chord as it's going by, and maybe start your licks there. So anyways, we'll talk more about it in the next video. We'll talk about a couple more scales that I want you to get down. But for right now, keep working on your minor scale. In this case, it'll be A minor and C major. And start playing your arpeggios, like your C major arpeggio every time you hear a C chord. You could throw in this note, your major 7th note. On the A, here's an A minor, or an A major. Get the 7th note, which is there. Oops. What are some, oh, minor 6. That's the 6th note of the G minor. 5, 6, there's the octave of 6. Oops. Start playing your triads. Here's a G, there's a minor 3rd, and there's your 6. All right, have a good day. Hopefully this helps. The next video we'll talk about 2 other modes of the major scale. Maybe a Dorian we'll go in a row. We'll do Dorian and then Phrygian, which are fun to play on the guitar. I'll show you some of the fingerings that I use all the time. And like I said, the fingerings out of the scale I'm giving you, there's a bunch of other ways to play it, so don't be afraid to use them. I'm just showing you the way I use it. All right, take care. Bye.